Welcome to On the Chain. This is Jeff here with co-host Chip. What is going on, everybody? What's going on, Chip? Solana surging. That's what's going on. What are the implications for XRP and Flare's future? That's what we're going to talk about. Maybe. We're going to get into that. There's all these great things to dig into, Chip. I also want to bring up the Stellar Foundation, the XDC Foundation, and some other foundations that are pumping their communities. Also, Solana. There's some big building going on over there, but there's definitely a little bit of turmoil going on in the XRPL space, and we got to keep talking about that. Try to fix it. Try to figure out what's happening. Everybody's a little bit concerned, and maybe we'll get to the bottom of it. What says you?
Maybe we don't even talk about any of that, which is how it
Maybe
usually
not.
goes. But we put it out there just in case we want to
put it
talk
out
about
there
it.
anyways.
It's all out there for us to see. But let's get going. Let's go.
Welcome to On the Chain.
The beauty of it, Chip, is that we talk about it right in the beginning. It's all in the intro.
That's right. And if we never
It's all
get to
been
it,
talked about.
well, we actually got to it. So, but I want to wish everybody who's a father out there happy Father's Day. Happy Father's Day to everybody. Hope you had a great day. And I certainly did. Did you have a good one, Jeff? Was your good?
I did, yeah. Went to lunch earlier.
Yeah, same here.
Really nice. Had a spread. Very cool.
Spread is always good, man. Went to a nice Mexican restaurant. It was good.
Nice. Went to a place called Cafe Noir, which was really nice.
Cafe Noir. I think I've been there. Where's that at?
It's over in Hollywood.
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 Okay. Interessante. All right, let's get busy with this. Guys, drop where you're coming in from. We got people coming in from all over the world. Happy Father's Day, says Crypto Navigator. Charles says Happy Father's Day. What's up with everybody? Great to see you guys. Always great to see you guys, man. Always great.
Man.
XRP Traveler says Jeff. Boom. Good live. Good live to get you here on the live one. Tell me the things that I've been missing, fellas. Yeah, that's the thing. You haven't really been missing much. That's the thing. That's the funny part. You missed everything, man. It's all. You missed everything. Pittsburgh, PA. That's right. Melbourne, Florida, land of the free, home of the brave, and Alchemist. BTC still winning. There's still no drama.
That's right.
Very good point. That's a very good point. It's still winning. It's all these years, and there is zero drama going on, right?
And there's an ETF.
And that could be why it's winning.
It's winning. Can't take all the winning. We're promised winning all the time, and just getting to be too much. All that Bitcoin winning.
All of that winning. What are you going to do? I want to get into this. James Filan here. Jimmy Filan, who I had the pleasure of meeting in person last year at the Rob McDermott pre-party to the proper party on Ripple, which was
the true party.
Let's say it was the 29th of September last year.
You had the true party that Rob hosted, and then you went to the proper party after the true party.
Yeah, the true party was the fun one, right? That's where you really got to talk and hang out. The other one was big, but Lenny Kravitz is pretty good. So here we go. This was a letter. This was Ripple's SEC responded to Ripple's letter regarding the Terraform Labs consent judgment. And we talked about this the other day, but then Digix jumped in. He said, Attorney Jeremy, Jeremy Hogan, kind sir, your presence is required. We await the Hogan magic dust that transforms these words so we can absorb them and understand. I tip my hat in advance. Ooh, and then, of course, who appears? None other than Jeremy Hogan pops in and says, me, the SEC isn't requesting a penalty of $102 million. It's arguing that even applying Ripple's logic to the terrorist settlement, the penalty should be $102 million. And this is where everybody on crypto Twitter, all the influencers read it wrong. And they were all saying that it's going to be $102 million. That wasn't it at all. You have to have some good reading skills. Because I read it, I'm like, dude, that's not what it says. But that's what it is. So he said, also, me, what are the chances? So I wanted to play this little clip that he had. This clip here.
I'd like to know when the SEC responded. When was their response issued? What's the date on that?
The response, June 14th.
June 14th. That's interesting.
June 14th.
So they issued that response on Friday.
Yep.
Right before the weekend.
Yep, right when no one's paying attention. Generally speaking, that's when you do the news dump right there. So it's a nothing burger. Anyway, people are like, they went from 2 billion to saying 100 million. This is going to be great. It's going to settle. And then the settlement conversation jumps back there, Jeff. But this is what Jeremy said. Super short clip. Got to pay attention.
And anyway, that's my call. $100 million and an injunction as to the institutional sales.
That was it. So he hosted a crypto law in John Deaton's absence. I watched this episode, and he was kind of giving he said that it might be $100 million. He's like, what are the chances? It wouldn't be $2 billion. He said $100 million or less is what he was calling for. And so he was kind of in jest sort of referencing that he had made that call, and that this was saying that if they applied the same logic to Terraform, it would be 102 billion, but they weren't saying the penalty they were requesting was were reduced to 100 million. But again, you got to have those reading skills, right? I just
and if it could be reduced to 100 million, I mean, that would be, it'd be relatively be a nice parting pathway. Say, just pay the $100 million fine and let's move on with life.
But look at these other ones. They got fined what, $20 million, $15 million. I mean, look at Kraken. They went out. Kraken was like, I think they settled for 20 million. 6 months later, they issued. This is why you don't settle with the SEC, because it's just going to keep coming at you until you take them to court, until you fight a lawsuit. They bent the knee and they said, okay, kind SEC, please don't hurt us. And then they paid the fine, and 6 to 8 months later, they're after him again. So this is where you're not going to win. You're not going to get ahead until you take them to task, right?
You gotta hold them on point. You got to keep fighting back. You can't just give in.
You can't give in. So this was interesting. I thought, look, I mean, whether there's positive or negative going on, I did too, guys, read it wrong. So, well, it's not. I think that whole response in general is like, so what? It's like, I don't know.
I'm so fed up with the SEC. I'm so fed up with the overall overreach. I can't wait for the new administration to come in and just kind of pull a Malay on all of these unelected bureaucrats and just wipe out, all of these unelected positions. There's so much fat in the government, and their thought process is fat. They just don't do anything with any decorum of reality. It just seems like they're not living, in the real world. They're living. You go to Capitol Hill, they live in this Capitol Hill bubble. It's kind of like if you go onto a college campus and the professors there, everybody lives in this bubble. They live in this kind of, an alternate world, because the real world doesn't impact what goes on the college campus so much, and so now you kind of go into DC, it's the same thing. They kind of live in this DC bubble, and they just don't get what's really happening. And so when they come up with these ideas and these responses, man, yeah, I'm so fed up with it. So we're gonna turn Malay into a verb, and we're just gonna Malay all those unelected bureaucrats.
Yeah, that's it right there. That's exactly what it is. Crypto Navigator says, split the baby, 50 million. Let's wrap this up so we don't have to go an extra year and a half and drag this stupid court case out. Then we've got right there. What's going on, man? Yeah, Chip and Jeff insight. Yeah, well, it's from our perspective. So there you go.
That's we should change.
I saw some great photos of you over there at Apex, man. Dude, you were like in every photo I saw. I don't know how you like weaseled your way in. You were like everywhere. I saw him, like he was like in the background. He was in other shots, and I was like, all right, there's someone that I know there. There was a bunch of people. You'll have to chime in. I want to hear what your impression was of Apex too, because that'd be great to hear Ivan's perspective on what how that went. So this is interesting, and I think it's something we should talk about. And again, because we talk about it doesn't mean we're endorsing it one way or the other, but this is the conversation that's happening. Sometimes, you share positive stuff or negative stuff. People always come down and you're like, oh, you're being too optimistic. Oh, why are you being so negative? You know what I mean? It's like you can't ever win. Someone always has their opinion about something, but
You can always
Hey,
win.
what's up, Ed? Well, let's put this up here because this was an interesting perspective, and it'd be interesting to hear from Ivan and what he thinks.
Yeah, I would love to hear.
You know,
Get some comment
XRPL Apex was terrible, and that's sad. Now, I don't know if that's true. I mean, I thought a lot of it was pretty solid from what I had seen. I'd watched a lot of it. We went there looking for reasons to continue to build on the XRPL. We found none. Anyone who tells you otherwise was paid to be there or chosen to shill their project. Don't listen to them. Pretty negative off the bat. The people on stage couldn't articulate anything properly. Well, We to Win articulated probably the best soundbite of the whole entire event about
I
talking
think so.
about what people need to build for. Don't build, kind of like don't build for 8 billion people. Build for what they would use. Don't try to build something what you think is going to be a solution or whatever. So those words were pretty well spoken, don't you think, Jeff?
No, I think he was solid. To this next point, what the hell has Ripple been doing? And I think Ripple is doing what Ripple's going to do, and we really need to move on from this expectation that they're going to be the all-time saviors for today's, like, the here and now for the XRPL. However, uh, what I am seeing, and from the news, and we just talked about it yesterday, they're moving forward with some interesting acquisitions. They're moving forward with some interesting partnerships, and the acquisitions and the partnerships are leading towards a near time future where we're going to start seeing the tokenization of real world assets using the XRPL. That's what we're seeing. That's a direction. So Ripple and Brad Garlinghouse said it in the interview with David Schwartz, is that Brad wants to get into everything. The rest of the team and David's like, keep it focused on payments. But now we're seeing the real world assets and the tokenization of real world asset. We're seeing the stable coin. We're starting to see the ground being set for the furtherance of utility on the XRPL, and bringing more liquidity and bringing more investment to projects that are going to be on the XRPL, and more money flow, especially when you start tokenizing real world assets using the XRPL. So I saw a big play in that direction. What does that do with all these other projects, Chip? And I was doing a little kind of introspect on it, and I started looking at many of the projects, and it just seems to me like there's so much out there that, and like we've talked about so many times, there's solutions without problems, but they're like pet projects. They're not like real world solving technologies that are being built onto the XRPL. They're pet projects that don't necessarily have validity, again, for growth, for financial gain, for, there's just nothing there. uh, so you have people in the community trying to develop. They want to develop. Ripple is going through building their company, focusing on what they can do to become more profitable. They're obviously running into some potential slowdown with moving towards dominating in the payment space. That could be another decade out. It could be another 10, 20 years before they replace Swift as a major player. Right now, little by little, they're making some inroad, but maybe 5, 10 years from now, I don't know, banks aren't going to just all of a sudden jump on board overnight. We're starting to see some acceptance within the global space, within the banking space, of stable coins. You're starting to hear talk about digital assets, digital currencies. So maybe 5 years from now, I don't know. I'm not looking at in a magic 8 ball, or a crystal ball to figure that out. But it just seems like Ripple's doing what they're going to do. They're playing the big game with the big institutions. They're trying to figure out how to become more real world. At the same time, in the same breath I say that with, that's their agenda. Where's the foundation? Where's the XRPL foundation? Where the $1 billion that Ripple is dedicated to that space? And if it's not $1 billion, make it 100 million, but start putting it out there, start marketing, start putting a huge emphasis and a big push behind investment from the foundation into projects, and have a real path to identify which projects are real solutions to real problems, and not just solutions with no problems. And just, start building, start developing, start creating a little bit of excitement in the space. That's what I'd like to start seeing. There's going to be a lot of discussion, and and rightfully so. We have to critique the space, and Chip and I aren't strangers of definitely critiquing some of the moves that we've seen Ripple make. And I think there's so much emphasis and so much focus on what Ripple is doing, primarily because they're the largest right now that is building or has utility that could impact the XRPL and could impact the overall utility of the XRP digital asset. So that's why there's so much hyper focus on Ripple. So then they come to an apex, and kind of looking at some of the critique from this X post, and emphasizing the fact that Ripple is more like an infomercial, that they're just out there marketing themselves, and marketing their agenda, and marketing what they're trying to do. But that's their company.
Right. That's what it is. Apex is
That's why,
it's about Ripple, Jeff. I mean, like, this is what people don't understand. It's like Ripple has a fiduciary responsibility to their core investors, the people who invested in the company, the shareholders, right? They don't have a I mean, Apex is all about Ripple. If you really go to the world, go to the WI in Australia if you're looking for what's going on with builders, and go to a conference that's more about that. So that's not really what this is about. Although they did have, they did have Shen up on stage, talking about Zertmon. They did have some great projects up there. So it's, I mean, says there's great people in the space, but the tech isn't there. And then the company's making millions from dumping in their users. You'd expect more. The tweet will get drowned out by paid actors just being real. That was something that was put out there. And again, I don't know. I mean, onledger.net said it's sad. I've heard from a number of devs who were there and reiterated what you're saying. They said it was simply a Ripple marketing campaign. There was just a total disjoint between what people wanted and expected and what they got. Well, that's what Apex is. It's a Ripple event to promote what Ripple's up to. And Ripple was kind enough to invite folks. I thought the Crypto Eddie moderated panel was phenomenal. I found that super engaging. She asked amazing good questions. I mean, I don't know what people were looking for, but again, I got a lot out of it. I thought it was great. But if you were thinking this wasn't a developer conference, it wasn't for what's happening in the XRPL. This was all about Ripple to promote Ripple. That's what that was. I mean, you know what I mean?
Why am I crying? It's so distressing, as we
chip out. By the way, funny, Jeff, while you were doing that whole thing, he's like, I basically had to take off. But there's been a fly buzzing around my room. The dog, I don't know. The dog came in. He opened the door, and I went to close the door. A fly flew in the door. He was on my monitor, so I took my Elijah Craig freaking towel here.
Nice, but Chip, you brought up the wave of innovation. Was great. WOI over in Australia was outstanding. And I believe that the next one for 2025 is going to be on a whole different level. That event was all about developers. They pulled off an amazing event. When was it now? Was it April, March? I've totally lost track of time when we were over there, but it was outstanding for the first event. Go into next year, the event is going to be on a whole different level. And as you start looking at this, we can't. And to your point, Apex supported by Ripple. It's more of a Ripple event.
It's all a Ripple event.
So, but they're what they're doing though is they're promoting this Apex event. And they're reaching out and portraying as though it has something to do with the community. And so they're letting community involvement participate with it. I think that's good overall. Maybe there people aren't getting what they wanted out of it. Maybe there were no, big secrets or no big push from Ripple to say, hey, we're investing all this money in the community, in the foundation, whatever it might be. But at the same time, if you have all these people that came, many of them might have had exposure to some of the projects, or that they did bring up there. Like you mentioned, Zertmon. Maybe it's the first time they saw Zertmon. That's a good thing. So I think as we start moving forward, we really have to have an expectation of what we want to get out of these types of events. And what was the proper party? The proper party was really all about Ripple, hyping up that they had some victory over the SEC, and that XRP was deemed to not be a security from that outcome of the judge decision. But at the same time, that's all it was. There wasn't anything more than that. It was kind of hypey. They threw this big party. They invite all these people, and that's it. You can't read any more into that. But I think, people, especially people that come into our chat here, into our show, they know, we're still super new to the space, still super young in the space. And Alchemist hits it, spot on, that there's not going to be massive development, especially with the big institutions, and really more mainstream adoption until we have clarity, until there's regulatory clarity in the US. But we're starting to see regulatory clarity in other parts of the world. We're starting to see it in the UK. You're starting to see it in Singapore, in Korea, in Japan, in other countries, even in parts of the Middle East. They understand the dynamics and the significance of blockchain and crypto assets. The U.S. is being held up because of these unelected bureaucrats, and they're trying to maintain a stranglehold on power, and that's the big thing. Get a new administration in 2025 that comes in, let the Congress and the new administration push forward over that the next year after that, and we're going to see some really interesting things happen. But we're going to need Congress, we're going to need Senate, and we're going to need the new administration in order to have all of it together. That's what it's going to require, and it's going to be, at that point, it'll be amazing. It'll be great, but it's going to take that. We're not there yet. We're still trying to get to that point. That's the point. That's
right.
Yeah.
Good point. I saw this one here. So when somebody chimed in and said EVM sidechain stablecoin, is that trash to you? Also, Dirk from Expector said, FYI, the team that built Evernode has been hired by Expector to continue building an internet protocol for the decentralized open metaverse. That's freaking huge right there. Like, that's massive development right there. And then Average John says, I did see yesterday on the website, I was thinking that maybe essential Expector software could be pushed through an Evernode infrastructure. That would be a game changer. The first metaverse that can't be shut down. Dirk's like, exactly. That's exactly what it is. And then Average John said, I am truly excited. I was even thinking whether I should buy land on Expector yesterday. This is a big deal, a really big deal, a true innovation, a second world where people can stay alive forever. Like you're saying, it can't be shut down. Did you know that the Second Life economy is stronger than fiat? Epic. Second Life. Remember that, Jeff? Second Life? But it's
amazing. And they actually had an economy. They had a whole economic infrastructure.
Yeah, exactly. And this is like that, on steroids, going the next level. And then he said, I come from the old world, the one that you're building. I've done all kinds of virtual asset transactions from days before Bitcoin existed. What you need right now, though, is a forum for the gamers with various noble titles and the fireground sounds to achieve. First title for right up there should be the Legend of the Badass Yetis. That would be the first title for the video game, Jeff. Happy to get on a call one of these coming days. If you start an Evernode forum with a sub forum for Evernode related projects, then I'd love to be part of that growing forum. Super big. We also need to get out there on the Twitter X echo chamber. It's the best path to success. Nobody here cares for or understands crypto. Obviously, Expector would be a big category in the forum, probably even the biggest part initially. It's not a bad idea, though, to merge a bit because there's not a lot of us yet, but reach into 100 active members every second would be good initial goal for the board. And then boom, right there. That is super true. So that's good. So, it's good. It's so funny how something that starts off so negative all of a sudden turns positive when people start chiming in. And this is what it's all about. It's what it's all about on the chain. It's a dialogue, right? It's like you don't have to agree with everything we say. And surely, well, these days, we're agreeing more with Alchemist than maybe some others. But there's times where he doesn't agree and says, I don't agree. And you don't have to. That's the whole thing. Have a dialogue started. Have a talk about ideas. Talk about what's going on out there. I think that's the best way to sort of really engage, right? Can we do a
So
little?
here's something just real quick that's interesting.
You got there.
As we get into things, you start looking around and you start trying to figure out, I was just trying to pull up the Second Life currency, and this came up. That's on Investopedia. Learn what you need to know before you invest in a virtual currency. Kind of goes into what it is, some of the key takeaways,
What was that?
understanding cryptocurrency, and then we get into experts say blockchain technology can serve multiple industries, supply chains, blah, blah, blah. Financial institutions such as JP Morgan with the JPM are using blockchain tech. And then you get into your types of crypto. Many cryptocurrencies were created to facilitate work done on the blockchain they're built on. For example, Ethereum's Ether, right? And then you kind of go in here, the XRP ledger. XRP is designed for financial institutions to facilitate transfers between different geographies. Utility, XRP and ETH are two examples of utility tokens. They serve specific functions on their respective blockchains. Kind of gets into, I just think it's kind of interesting. They bring up both ETH and XRP.
Uber the FUD killer wants to know why you're panicking, Jeff.
I don't know. Having a panic attack over.
I'm not sure you're panicking yet. I don't
so
really.
Just distraught.
Are you panicking? And then he says, "Well, what's
I
next?"
am.
There's a lot to. I mean, it's a lot to talk about. Uh-oh.
It's negative. Slow
Guys,
down.
we're
Slow
going
down. You guys are going too fast.
You move too fast. Look at this right here. This is good. Legendary says the geriatrics in power can't find a way to hide bribes with a crypto system. Yeah, this whole idea of decentralization displaces a lot of what's going on in government. So if you can find out how to truly represent the people with one on the blockchain, one person, one vote, verifiable, but yet let's say anonymous, right? Nobody knows when you go into a voting booth what it is. And then it changed it anyway. We just saw what happened into Puerto Rico, where they ran the ballots, they counted them, and it was off by 4,000 votes because they got changed. So that's a good point.
Disgusted is not distraught. You're right. We're disgusted.
Disgusted with the current system, and it's just on both sides. Again, that's why people. When people call me a Republican, I'm like, please don't swear at me. I don't enjoy it. I prefer the term. I can't. There is no conservative term in Florida. It's just like you're either an independent, you're a Republican, or you're a Democrat. That's it. I think you can be a libertarian though. I've never. And look what's happened to that party. That's gone farther left.
That's right. You could always be a Republicrat.
I'm gonna say nay to that, Jeff. Nay. I'm gonna go no way in hell with that, dude.
Or a Demican.
No, I'm gonna go no with that too. But I want to put up some John Deaton news. John Deaton was busy yesterday, and I want to play this little video. I love this because when you see a candidate just walking and talking into it, just homemade shot, right? Shot on an iPhone, an Android, whatever. It's shot on a phone. And then you see John Deaton. He's a real guy. He's walking a neighborhood, knocking doors. Let's listen in.
Everybody, it's John Deaton on this beautiful Saturday morning. I'm out here knocking in the neighborhoods, door knocking, spreading the word. I told you, Elizabeth Warren will not outwork me. And so we're going to knock on every door possible that we have to, that we physically can. But I need your help. So please, if you're willing to help, obviously money is great, but if you can give any of your time, go to johndeatonforsenate.com and volunteer today. Listen, the momentum is growing. We have an opportunity to retire Elizabeth Warren and make history, and you can be a part of it. johndeatonforsenate.com. Volunteer today and help me out. Thank you.
There you go, right there, Jeff. What do you say about that, Jeff?
Man, I like the fact that John is getting out there. I love it that he said he's out there door knocking. That's one of the hard things to do. I've been there, helping candidates out, knocking on doors, and it's fun, when you get out there and do it. Haven't done that in a while, but for John as a candidate to get out there and to have people know who he is huge. And that's where it all starts. Elizabeth Warren probably isn't knocking on doors. A lot of times, incumbent candidates will. Many times they won't. I don't see her doing that. There's probably a lot of people that don't agree with her anymore and definitely don't want to representing them any longer, and so I wonder what would happen if she went out there knocking on doors. John's out there for the community. in the community, what I'm looking forward to is a potential debate between John Deaton and Elizabeth Warren. That would
Well,
be,
you got to win the primary first. That's the
yeah,
first.
well, let them win the primary and then come in there and let's have a crushing debate. That'd be awesome.
Yeah, I agree. Well, speaking of Elizabeth Warren, since you mentioned the name, I'm going to put this up here. And again, it's great that she's talking about her dad, has a lot of respect for her father. That's not what this is about. It's more about the comment here. She says, "My daddy always believed in me. That's my Betsy," he'd say. "I wouldn't be where I am now if he hadn't pushed open a door for me. I'm thinking of him today, and I'm wishing him a happy Father's Day to all the fathers and father figures out there fighting for their kids." Cool
Nice.
looking car right there. I got to give it to him. It's a good look.
Is that Betsy?
No, Betsy's her. Her dad would say, "That's my Betsy," referring to Elizabeth. Sometimes Elizabeth goes by Betsy.
Right. I just assume he named his car Betsy.
Well, no, he was talking about Elizabeth Warren. Dirk from Expector said, "Daddy John Deaton is going to retire, Betsy." Daddy John Deaton. That was pretty. I don't know. I thought that was funny. It was a humorous little thing. Nice one, Dirk. Very good.
I like it. I like
Maybe
it.
he did name his car Betsy. I don't know. But all I can tell
Maybe
you
that's what she thought he was always talking about. That's my Betsy. He's always talking about his car.
now, she got absolutely destroyed in the comments. Valentina Gomez says he doesn't look Native American. Maybe it's time to resign. We've had enough of your communism. Chief Warren. I mean, it's just brutal in here, man. Pocahontas. I mean, it's rough. Sitting Bull. Come on, man. Well, Betsy, that's the one. The rest of us don't believe one word you say. So yeah, it's a lot of that going on in those comments.
Dad was also known as Sitting BS.
Oh man.
Hoover was saying that looked like Biden in the picture.
It's funny,
right?
It really does. It honestly does look like Biden, right? I thought that too. I'm like, am I crazy? But look at that.
Yeah, with the glasses and everything.
Right?
Zoom in on that. See if those are aviators.
It does look a little bit like Biden, doesn't it?
It does.
It kind of looks like a combination of Elizabeth Warren, like if you melded the two
And
together.
Joe Biden.
Biden and Warren together, it kind of looks a little bit like both of them. But yeah, it kind of looks like Joe Biden's her daddy. I mean, what the hell? That's weird. But anyway, yeah, it does kind of look like
Like nice satellite had a black one back in the day. Look at that.
It's a cool photo, man. And
It's a nice car.
Guy, it's like, I mean, but look at this.
Zoom in on that. Johnny's saying zoom in. Can you zoom in? Just get a little more of a close up on him.
I can't zoom in anymore. No, I can't.
That's it.
Anymore. It's about
You've zoomed.
Let's see. Let me do this. Let me see if I can. Yeah, it doesn't seem to.
Nope.
The photo itself doesn't. I can't get. Can't zoom in on any more on the photo.
Do it on your own computer.
It's something going on Twitter there. Well, not me, but anyway.
It's rejecting the zoom.
Oh, it's the browser or something. It's
His Indian name was Broken Rubber. Oh my god.
This is why it's fun. This is why doing this show is fun, because it's a good laugh for us too. It's a good old laugh for us.
Who said no one can zoom in on Biden? That's right. Can't zoom in on him either. That last one where he's gonna told the reporter he'd throw the phone and you can only see his chin.
Yeah, right. Yeah,
I guess it was a social media influencer.
So there was this hang on a second, I'm trying to find the yeah, here we go. Yeah, I got something else here to talk about. Right. So this was interesting too. Get a lot, but this just goes to show you. This plays to what we hear in the media. The media is going to distort everything about crypto. Okay, they're gonna tell you that it's used for money laundering and it's this and that. And it's I don't even know if it could ever catch up to the money laundering that's gone on with fiat currency. But
everybody know who he is.
He's going to tell a false narrative to suit their story. This is Sean McGuire. He was talking about
who is Sean McGuire?
Sean McGuire is ex-Ripple. Okay, so if you guys don't know, he's an ex-Rippler. He's an ex. He's also
Sequoia.
Yeah, he's a partner at Sequoia, right now. But it's also, I think he's ex-Google as well, ex-Ripple. I think so, if I'm thinking about that right. Anyway, point is that he was saying, remember Charlottesville? This was this whole thing. Remember Charlottesville and Trump called neo-Nazis very fine people. I only saw the clip for the first time today. It's a must watch. He literally condemns the neo-Nazis and white nationalists. So like you just listen to the clip, you're like, okay, but no, they made this sort of whole cottage industry about they're very good people. It's like, it's back in the day when they said, they just, it becomes a catchphrase, and it's never been said, like played against them, like in the movie. It's never been said.
Exactly. That's the whole point. Exactly.
Right. He never said
When
that.
did he say it? He didn't say that.
But this is how the media will twist stuff and how they'll put it to their own thing. Chamath Palihapitiya said, yet another reminder that it's more important than ever to think for oneself and think from first principles. Like, this is a really important statement, to think for yourself, right? I mean, you got to be able to navigate the waters and what people are telling you. And Chamath he's a billionaire. He's the CEO of Social Capital, but this guy is very incredibly accomplished. And what's amazing is, I don't know if he takes part in this podcast. Let me throw this up here. This is actually a really good podcast. I really like this podcast a lot right here. You can see it on screen here. They talk about a bunch of different subjects here, but it's called the All In Podcast. I don't know if you guys have ever heard it, but it's basically Chamath. It's Jason Kalkattis, it's David Sachs, and it's David Freebird. And these are four accomplished, men that have done incredibly well in their respective careers, right? And they just sit around, they have a round table, and they talk about these cool topics. And so what I want to do right now is I wanted to play something just to tell you how the media sort of bends things and how they can get so out of whack. But Chamath was talking about, now it was about a little over a week ago, that they held a fundraiser for Trump in San Francisco. Sold out, raised an incredible amount of money, right? And what the press said about it was so negative and wrong. And so one of the things that Chamath was talking about here was he was kind of just talking about like what it was like. And I think this is a very interesting segment here. Let's just listen in on this, Jeff.
Two observations. The first is that I think that there is a huge gap between how the media tries to portray Donald Trump and what he's like when you meet him in person. And that gap is really wide. And so I would say specifically to Democrats and independents, you really do need to sit in the room and feel what it's like. David is right. He is charismatic. He's intellectually sharp, and he's funny. And when you put that together, he can engage an audience for a long time and be totally extemporaneous. The other thing I would say is that he is very polite, and he's kind in a way that was disarming and was not what I expected. And so I felt that I had misjudged him many years in the past. And so I was very glad that I had an opportunity to sit beside him and to actually interact with him one-on-one. It was really, really engaging. And so that's more about the style. And then about the substance, what I would say is it was not just a pro-America agenda, but it's very clear that he was pro-innovation. So he was really supportive of AI in the details that he talked about. He was very supportive of crypto in those details. And he's very much low regulation, low taxation. And so when you put that together, it does stand very much in contrast with what the alternative is. And so I think that both of those things are a reason why, even if you aren't willing to vote for him, I would encourage everybody to experience what it's like to hear him.
Freeberg, your thoughts on all this?
I didn't go to this. I didn't go to the event. I don't know.
No, I know. Just big picture.
I'm wondering
our
why
bestie's hosting this.
I want to know why Chamath didn't wear a tie. Everyone else is wearing a tie. You didn't want the tie?
Chamath doesn't need a tie. He's a baller.
So this is funny what he says about coming up right here. But look at this. So this is Chamath and his wife there with. But he doesn't need to wear a tie. He's a baller. I like that.
All right.
Do you want to say what Trump said to you when he met Natalie?
So it's us talking, and he says, "You guys are a really beautiful couple."
Uh-oh.
And I said, well, thank you. And then he turns to me and he goes, well, you must be really rich. He says this thing. And I started laughing out loud. Nat thought he was hilarious. So
because of the disparity in the looks between you and Nat is what he was sort of implying.
You guys sat next to him at dinner.
Yeah.
And was that like an hour just private conversation between the three of you?
This is the other thing that he does. He actually sits there and he says, folks, I'm happy to continue to talk about whatever you want me to. You feel free to ask me questions, or feel free to just go around the room and just tell me what you think. And what would happen is people would say different things, and then he would start asking questions of other people. And the thing becomes almost like this roundtable discussion of topics we talked about Iran, we talked about foreign policy, we talked about
deficit and debt.
Like the Clintons.
Crypto regulation, everything.
What did he say about deficit? What did he say about deficit and debt?
Well, he's very much he's very much on your side of we have to really figure out how to get spending in order and get the deficit under control.
Well, congrats on it. Sounds like a success.
Yeah, so it was so the whole podcast is worth listening to. You can also find them there. I can drop the Twitter link in there too. You can find all their episodes there, but I'll do that right there if you guys want to click over. It's good. It's engaging. It's good conversation because they're all four sort of distinct minds, very powerful minds, very accomplished, and it's good. I've been listening to it for a while and just happened to see this clip floating around. What did you think of that, Jeff? Like, it's kind of funny when he looked at me and said, "You must be really rich."
Man, I like hearing, people's opinion when they actually sit down, in small group sessions with Trump. If you watched his speech in Detroit yesterday, and then he was in the church in the city of Detroit, and he was hosted. There was a Blexit event going on, and it was just so passionate, and you could see how genuine he was in talking to people. And a lot of time you'll hear stories of what he does when the cameras aren't rolling and how genuine he is in helping people. And you don't hear a lot of that. You just hear all the misinformation, which is super detrimental to this country. You see one administration that is antagonistic against innovation and trying to crush cryptocurrency. And then you see another, and Trump came out very, very strong about supporting cryptocurrency and then supporting, how we're going to be moving forward to make this country great again, from every perspective. Then you have this guy. Like, what in the world is going on in this picture? And you look at the Pope, like, what's going on here? I get it. You want to come up, maybe you hug him, maybe you don't. I don't know what etiquette is or the particular decorum is, but I know it's not coming over and pressing your forehead against his. I don't think that is the proper decorum.
You're supposed to greet the Pope. You're supposed to go forehead to forehead. Yeah, it's very disrespectful.
Are you supposed to go forehead to forehead? I mean, it's just
too
bizarre.
But him, okay? He was trying to get to talk to him, and you could just see but don't get me started on the Pope either, man, because I got don't get me started. I was raised Catholic, and I've got my own. I could do a whole dissertation and show about this.
What's up with Hoover? He's like, you're getting stressed again. And we're getting stressed reading the comments.
This is what's great. The best part of the show. I mean, quite honestly, Jeff.
And Hoover's like, why does everyone think the U.S. makes a difference? That's why I was stressed. I'll tell you, the U.S. is critical.
Wait, here we go. This is the question. Okay, go, Jeff. I'm just gonna sit back and.
No, I mean, Chip. I mean, to be honest, the U.S. isn't the epicenter of the world, but is one of the key leaders of the free world and has been, behind the economic might also for the free world and supporting a free capitalist system. If the U.S. is gone, Europe ceases to exist.
It's gone.
That's it. And, it's been proven, already in, 2 periods. And I think, as we move forward, but we're also seeing what happens when there's no leadership in the U.S. When the U.S. completely loses its focus and loses its leadership position, then the whole world is on fire right now. Now, the problem is that the mentality of the current administration, and this didn't just happen over the past 3 years. This has been developing over a long period of time, over a couple of decades. But what we're seeing over in Europe right now, and the meltdown of Islamofascism coming over and invading countries like England, other parts of Europe, and turning a blind eye to it is extremely, extremely dangerous for Europe. And we're starting to see a little bit of that here in the US also. But no much more, you're starting to see almost every day now. I'm seeing videos coming out of Ireland and what's happening on the streets of Dublin. There was some, there was a big vote in Iceland when it comes to the migrants and any of the revoking any of the quote unquote benefits that they're giving them. They have a 30-day, once they tell them they no longer have asylum in their country, they basically have 30 days to leave. If they don't leave, they lose any benefit that they gave them, healthcare, money, places to stay. That's it, all revoking, and they're gone, So, and that Chip, I mean, I know, things have to change. It's going to change with the US first. Hopefully, we saw it in 2016. We saw a massive change towards, calming the world down and regaining a leadership position. The 8 years prior to Trump being in office, there was an administration that went on an apology tour all around the world. And you think that the world wanted to see the president of the United States parade around and start apologizing? That's not what they want. Whether they like you or not, they respect the power, especially when you go to the Middle East, especially when you go over to Russia, especially when you go to different parts of the world. They respect the power, whether they like you or not. That's how the balance works. That's how mutual assured destruction works. There's a balance, but you have to have a leadership position. We don't have that. And Chip, things have to change. It has to change from a financial perspective. It has to change from a political perspective, and it has to change from a military perspective. We have to be strong militarily. We have to be strong economically, and we have to be strong politically. And right now, we don't have any of those three. One of the guys that was on the stage with Trump yesterday said, he kind of had his question, whatever it was, and he said, "I want you to promise me that we won't see our military leadership wearing red high-heeled shoes."
The pastors, exactly. He didn't want to be the embarrassed. What I didn't have on the bingo card, Jeff, and I was talking to my good buddy from Detroit, my Detroit days, and I'm like, I did not have this on the bingo card. And I said, I would never have expected this in a million years. He texted me back. He said 2 million years at minimum that you would have expected it. But I didn't have Kwame Kilpatrick, who was the former mayor of Detroit, who was guilty on 24 counts: racketeering, conspiracy, extortion, bribery, mail fraud, wire fraud, tax filing, for filing tax return, 1 tax evasion, 1 extortion, 2 mail counts, basically sentenced to 28 years. His sentence, he was pardoned by Trump before he left office. And this guy is a changed man. If you saw him get up and speak, Kwame Kilpatrick just talked about he can't thank him enough for what he's done for his life and how he's turned it around, and how he's changed a lot of the way he thinks as well. And so, there has to be redemption as well. People can say like, oh, well, you can send somebody away and they did all these bad things. But, at some point, the human spirit, you need to have this redemption. Not everybody is going to take advantage of it. Not everybody who goes to jail and gets out, sometimes they reoffend. But this whole idea of like, I was just shocked. Because I remember when all that stuff went down with Kwame Kilpatrick. I don't know. Did you see him talking about it, Jeff, at all? Did you watch that?
I missed him talking about it yesterday, but I lived through it. I lived through the whole era. I was in Detroit at the time when Kwame Kilpatrick was there, and we saw the whole events unfold and how, it was crazy. It was really crazy, to see how everything happened back then. And then he was put in jail, and rightfully so, for everything that he did. Man, it's crazy, really crazy to see where we're at today, to see where we have to go, though. There's so much further that we have to go, and it's all going to happen, coming up here with this next election cycle. People know, the world knows, the citizens in this country know, the voters know, they know exactly what direction we need to move in to further. The one thing that was great is that Byron Donalds was there with him. And Trump asked him, he said, do you want to, because he said he's on the list. He said, I don't know if you're going to make it, but you're on the list. He said, do you want to be vice president? Did you see that part when he was asking? And obviously we had Byron Donalds on our show. And at that point you asked him, you say, hey,
I think I nominated you for VP. He goes, you're going to get me in trouble over here.
And we've talked about that so many times. He would be the greatest right now. If you look at all the candidates, he'd be one of the greats. Put him in as VP, be outstanding, sets the stage. Because after 4 years with Trump in, you need to have a vice president that's going to win and hold office for the next 8 years after that. Then you have 12 solid years. They'll be amazing. And that's what we need. We need 12 solid years with the White House and to set things straight again.
President and the VP can't reside in the same state, though. Isn't there that rule? Isn't there something to that effect? It's still like I thought there was something in the Constitution. There's something there. There's something about that. I don't know where there's reference, but if you guys can
look at that, yeah.
Someone
will look it up. Someone look it up.
That was the whole thing with having, DeSantis as well. DeSantis being on there, or Gates or anybody, being from the state of Florida. I don't think you can have the VP and the president cannot reside in the same state. So that would probably preclude. Okay. We'll have to look that up. There's something about that. I just don't know what the actual.
Will he be on our show once he becomes VP? I don't know. We'll have to get him on before he becomes VP, so then we can ask him that question.
Anyway, he's a rising star, and
definitely is,
yeah, he's. I'll tell you what. I mean, out of anybody, he gets the agenda. He understands it. He can communicate it, and this whole dust up about when he was that they try to like nail him. Talking about, I mean, they were just horrific the way they were. It's funny because he was in Tally, which is Tallahassee, but it's funny because that's where both of my girls are. Both of them reside, and he went to Florida State as well, and he was like with Trump one day, and the next day he was in two cities back to back, supporting his kids, on Father's Day, and it was like his wife tweeted out about it, and I had reposted it on my account. But it's so funny that But when he talked about Jim Crow, the point he made was during Jim Crow era, as bad as that was, horrific as it was, and who started the whole Jim Crow stuff, came from the left, the Democrats, right? He said what his saying was that we were a strong family, blacks were a strong family unit, and there was two parents in the home. And what did the left media do as we're talking about how they twist words? They basically said that they twisted it to him to say that the Jim Crow era was good for blacks, not what he said. Did he sit back and say, oops? No, he went on every show. He went on CNN. He went head to head with everybody and said, that's not what I said. He corrected people's posts that said, no, here's what I said. Here's what I meant. And this is what I like too. He's a fighter. He's not going to sit back. If he twists his words and make up some BS about it, he's not going to sit back. Where before Trump, that's what every Republican would do. They'd shout at him, they give the wrong words, they'd sit back and they do nothing, right? Like they do now. They're feckless, soulless humans, most of them. So much I can say. So I thought it was here's a picture of Kwame right there. He said, I never thank President Trump enough for what he's done for me, giving my freedom. But I believe that this election and the issues involved are personal to every family and every person in America. So he's going all in on Trump as well, So that's a pretty. And then Jeff, we got some Solana news here.
We do. Here's legendary. Put a link in. No law prohibits President VP from being from the same state. So there you go.
I thought I read something about that, but he wouldn't have been on the short list if that was the thing. I don't know where I've heard this.
No,
because I remember reading in my travels, but that's good to put up there. I'm not sure if I trust history.com, but
yeah, I don't know. Yeah, exactly. Now I don't. I don't. Yeah, no, let's put that aside.
I love Ben Carson, great man, but the low energy, he's like a Jeb Bush. He's like super low energy. What he says is very significant, but how he says it is a snooze-a-thon. So I'm like, no.
So, Chip, for Hoover, we're gonna have to start putting this in context for people over in Europe and use like a comparative, maybe like if you use the current the French elections, but it's hard to take a president and a prime minister. It's kind of different how they're put into.
But that's good.
we could kind of draw a comparative between some of the people that we're talking about with some of the European
Let's talk
politicians.
about this. Let's talk about this. You know, the Magna Carta was a pretty good start because the Magna Carta was one of the first documents in the history, which basically talked about giving power back to the people. And the king was like, yeah, okay, right, whatever. Okay, we'll sign it and great, whatever. That's a good idea. We'll placate you with that, right? That was what, 1200, whenever that was. But then when you fast forward to when the colonists broke away from Great Britain and they were basically all felons, they were all convicted felons. They put together a document called the Declaration of Independence, and they said, we don't need you anymore. A lot of it had to do with taxation without representation is what started it off. We have backslid on that a lot, but just understand that the Constitution of the United States is one of the few documents in the history of the world that was written by the people for government, very much like the Magna Carta was in a sense, but again, it tells the government what it's limited to do, what it cannot do. The other documents, the other constitutions talk about how the government can control you with all this stuff, and they put it together. This was written by the people. Other constitutions are written by the government. This is one of the key differentiators out there. And again, what has happened is shameful, how we have lost a lot of the way. You know, when Trump brought up the whole idea of he wants to get rid of income tax, people are like, well, you can't do that. Well, prior to 1913 and the founding of the Federal Reserve, shortly thereafter, federal income tax came into being. But how the government used to be funded was through tariffs. So he's talking about returning the tariffs. He's talking about a gold-backed currency. If you're going to see a lot of change, you're going to see it happen. And when Trump goes in, and what he should do, I'm hoping he does, is gets rid of the central bank. That's going to be good for Europe because the ECB, European Central Bank, is enslaving all of Europe, right? It's a debt system. It's a third party that controls what happens in your country. I don't know where you are specifically, but again, when one central bank falls, they're all gone. The elites are terrified of this. And if you look at what's happening with Geert Wilders in Netherlands, if you saw what happened in Italy, if you're watching what's going on with Macron and he just got hammered, if you're watching what's happening in Germany, if you're watching what's happening in all these, also Brussels, there's a lot. People are sick and tired. And this is not a U.S. movement. This is a worldwide movement, which is why decentralization is a very big upset because it, like somebody said earlier, you can't, if it's on the blockchain, you can track every transaction. But if you send a bunch of money for somebody else to protect their border, man, we saw that happen, that it's found its way from Ukraine back over to FTX. FTX then donated it to politicians, right? We call that money laundering. But again, you can, I guess there's a legal way around it, but this is kind of the why there's a U.S. perspective. But again, like Trump has gone to every country, and every time he visits a country and said, you should have the same sentiment to make your country great, return your country to its roots, return your country to why it became a great country and a culture to begin with. And that's what you should be looking out for as a leader. But it's a misnomer to say that the U.S. is trying to be the number one. I don't believe the U.S. needs to be the cop on the beat. People talk a lot about democracy. What democracy? About Ukraine. There's no democracy when you cancel the election, but we have to support this pretend democracy. And the U.S. is not a democracy. Right, Jeff?
All right. Yeah. And that's where, we pick up with the whole notion of decentralization, and allowing that to bring freedom to the people. And that's what DeFi is all about. And that's why cryptocurrency, blockchain is really so critical, because the U.S. has to be the best it can be. It's always going to be a leader within the free world. And we have to be that beacon, that outspoken. It's not perfect. There's a lot of issue here, so a lot of issue politically, a lot of issue with obviously internally, and we have a lot of issue with our food over here, so you go to other parts of the world and the quality of food is significantly better here, heavily influenced by different segments of industry. And that's where, breads are bad. The wheat's bad. There's like, 30 ingredients in an item, where over in Europe or other parts of the world, there might only be 5 ingredients, so obviously a lot of issue with that. But when we come down to cryptocurrency, we come down to this notion of decentralization, come down to how this administration and many on the left have tried to really crush innovation within blockchain. The U.S. has to be a leader within blockchain. It has always been a leader in tech. I'm not saying it has to be the leader, but it has to have a seat at the table. Right now, we don't even have a seat at the table because of the lack of regulatory clarity and the agenda of certain unelected bureaucrats and elected politicians that don't like cryptocurrency and want to try to dismantle it and replace it with a centralized digital currency, which is super problematic. And then you have
Hoover must be new to the show.
I think he is new. I've never seen Hoover here before, which is great.
The empire is losing as the Romans. He said, "Hey Chip, now you ranted." Well, that's our show. That's what we do here. So it is a geopolitical show. But again, it's all connected. It's every bit of it's connected. USA is not a leader. Ripple is. Okay. Okay. But again,
I'm liking Hoover is he's coming in with the.
I don't care where you live. It's over. It's over for you, and it's pretty much over for the UK right now. I don't see a way back for the UK. I think it's pretty much the US, the UK fought way before. I like how Europe's fighting back. I like how Poland. I like what happened there is a travesty, but what's happened in Hungary, there's a lot of people. The pendulum's swinging back with a vengeance. And look, people are people. I don't care where you live. I don't care the language. But a country comes down to culture, language, and borders. And if I want to go to France and experience French culture, that's what I want to experience. I don't want to experience, that's what France should be, right? If I go to the Netherlands, by the way, the Netherlands won today. It's a team by Euro Cup today, big win for them. Also, UK won, England won as well. But yeah, I was happy to watch the Netherlands. That's my European team. Yeah, that was they won as well too. So that was good.
You see the game with Albania, Italy, and Albania scored a goal within 30 seconds. That was crazy.
It's a fast goal. Out of the gate. Yeah, boom, just done. Change the whole perspective of the game. But there you go. There you have it. But anyway, look at the time. My gosh, let's do Solana. Solana Labs, which is Bond blockchain digital customer engagement platform. See that, Jeff? And then this one here, how about this one? Helio, expand Shopify plugin with Solana, pay for diverse crypto transactions. And you said we weren't going to get to it.
But that bond is actually a really cool.
Bond is really cool. We should probably break that down on the Wednesday show. That's a very, very cool thing.
We do it. So we're starting to see some changes, development on Solana. We're starting to see technology development within the Stellar Foundation, the XDC Foundation. We're starting to see investment on those blockchains and to start seeing what they're doing like with that over on Solana. And there's a lot of big plays right now with Solana. And I think that's kind of the point. That's the big surge within Solana. What's the implication for XRP and Flare's future? Flare, we've talked about that. We're going to keep talking about that we think they're on the right track with interoperability. And XRPL, they're kind of behind right now, and we'll get into that more on Wednesday. I think will be really, really important for us to do that. I'm glad to see some engagement in the chat.
Oh my, whoever lives in Sweden, and Sweden's on its way. It's well on its way to not good places. But I see a little bit of fight going on there. But
yeah,
about Islamic fascism, they're starting. There's a little bit of standing up. I think this is a little bit off point right here. You're American. You do not know about anything outside the USA. You could say that, but I'm gonna have my perspective. You'll have your perspective, just like you don't know what's going on in the US. But you'd be surprised what Jeff and I do follow as far as politics, not only in Europe but all over the world too. So I don't know if that's 100% true, but again, I think that's a pretty blanket statement, and you would probably be right on a lot of things that we don't know about because we're not in the minutia. But I do follow a lot of what's going on, especially in the UK, especially in Europe, and some countries as well. And believe it or not, I do know a little bit about what's going on in Sweden because there's a few people that I follow that are on a list, my Euro list, and my Twitter feed that I see a lot of things that are going on. Now, maybe a lot of it's negative, but I'll just leave it at that. Let's put it there.
I used to love the Saab. I used to own a bunch of Saab cars. Those are gone now.
There you go. Catch you guys on the next one.
Saab was Swedish. Volvo was Swedish.
Yeah. Well, you guys can vote to be part of the. Yeah, Puerto Rico. I mean, thank God for you guys and those voting machines, man. I really appreciate that. But that's all. It's all good stuff.
Paper
Sweden has
ballots.
good hockey players. Very good point. And speaking of hockey, Jeff, Tuesday night,
Oh man,
Florida Panthers will probably win the Stanley Cup.
we're looking forward to it. Unfortunately, there was a upset yesterday where Edmonton won 8-1.
Yeah, but
We're
Jeff,
kind of watching it.
that was like a safe face. I mean, they were getting blasted. I mean, it's a Canadian sport, and they were getting I mean, they just got blasted. It was funny. I was talking to one of my colleagues who's a Edmonton fan. I'm like, listen, man. He goes, it's so hard to watch. I said, I think you guys are going to win tonight. I went the other day. I said, I think you guys are going to win. He goes, I hope so. I go, you'll eke out a win. I go, they're not going to sit back and let it go 4-0. No, they're not going to get wiped out like that. And God, I didn't think it'd be 8-1. I was like shocked. So
It was rough to watch the game, but yeah, when we're watching, we said, hey, going home Tuesday, and they're going to win on Tuesday, and that's it. They're up 3-1 in the series.
Alchemist is right. Americans know XRP is 48 cents. We do know.
We know for sure.
Swedish meatballs. We love IKEA, man. What can I tell you? I love IKEA. It's the greatest invention
going
ever.
into IKEA. You go into IKEA, you get lost. You can't get out. There's no way to get out of IKEA.
Oh, Jeff.
What's that?
There's arrows on the floor that tell you the way. I've learned the way. I kind of know. There's little cubby holes you can go to cut a lot of that stuff out. Or you just go right downstairs. So you don't have to deal with that whole big sort of thing. But no, man. First of all, the desk that I have right here is IKEA.
Swedish meatballs. That's it.
I don't want to throw it out there, but I know how you can go and rape and kill somebody and just like walk the streets again. I know that. Should we get into those points? I mean, that's something I'm pretty familiar with. Pretty familiar with how you're pretty packed on those types of things. But
waking up. They're waking up over there. It's time to wake up.
They're waking up.
We do know who was the chef on the Muppets. Was it the Swedish chef?
Yeah, that was
always cooking on the Muppets.
That was another bad American moment right there, Jeff, making fun of it. That was another not so good moment. And who would be so good to do that?
That's our perspective here from the U.S. The Swedish chef on the Muppets and Swedish meatballs. That's not propaganda.
Biggest
Swedish meatballs.
No, what I was saying before is.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Right. I mean, I also read your news too. So yeah, it's all there. Robert, if you like.
Oh wait, this one here. Is that what he would say?
If you like geopolitics, then you need to look into the Duran or Judge Napolitano or Redacted. There you go. Yeah, Judge Napolitano. Yeah, he was on his way to a conference and he got bounced from the plane. It's just amazing, all that stuff. It's all good stuff right there, man. Yeah, I love geopolitics. Love it. It's a big sort of a thing, and it's kind of like what you're going to hear is going to bleed in. This is a big year, so you're probably going to hear a little bit more political stuff, and we'll probably start talking about some other projects as well. We're getting ready to launch our NFT project on Solana, which is we're getting right to the end there, so we're pretty excited about that. The badass chimps will make their way, and that's all we got, guys. That's all we got. Check out Wallenberg. All right, we'll do that. Listen, this is why this is good. We enjoy people coming in from around the world and sharing their perspective. It's very important to get your perspective out there and educate us. Yeah. Sophie, you said you were gone before. You told us you were leaving. You lied. Sophie's always like, this is how we do. And Sophie, it was like a late one too. We're usually waiting for Sophie to hit it at the 10-minute mark. We're like, all right, we got to hurry up. But that's it. Good night, all. We'll see you guys later. Chip and Jeff out.
Wednesday, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time.
Thanks, Jeff, for putting that in there. Thank you for putting the announcer role in there. But we'll see you guys on the next one. Chip and Jeff. See you guys.
Are you down with OTC? Please like, subscribe, and click the bell to be notified when the next video drops.